optimistic podcast of the year. Join us on this emotional roller coaster as we relive the past and look ahead to the future. The Abed 11 Chronicles, 10 voices, 1 podcast, and a lifetime of stories.
Good morning, Abed 11. How's everybody doing today?
Wonderful.
Good morning.
Guys.
Man, why you guys look so tired for today, Melissa?
I am tired. I didn't go to sleep till almost 3, and then I woke up to pray, and I've just been sleeping off and on. So yeah, it's gonna be a long day.
Let me ask you, like, you don't go to sleep first? Like, I fall asleep for a little bit, and then I get up, and then I go back to bed.
Yeah. So to be honest, usually I go to sleep because I have to work the next day around 10 or 11 o'clock. I put 2 dates next to me, a bottle of water. I wake up 5:30, take my 2 dates and drink water. But I was off today, so last night, and I don't really usually do this, but I don't know. I fell asleep on the couch for like about an hour and a half, and then I felt like just had all this energy when I woke up. So I just sat there with the girls. We stayed awake till about 3, and then went to sleep. And then I woke up in the morning to pray Fajr, and when I went back to sleep for a little bit, and then I woke up.
Well, that kind of leads us in what we're going to talk about today, because you stayed up with your girls and you built that relationship, right, with them. You bonded a little more with them last night, because it was Ramadan and you had the opportunity to kind of hang out. That's the kind of neat thing about that, about Ramadan is the relationships you kind of get closer. So today we thought we would talk about relationships in general, but also relationships and how we met our significant others and the importance of relationships, because I think that resonates with almost everybody. Everybody has a relationship. It can be with a wife, it can be with a husband, it can be with your family person. So we thought today we talk a little bit about relationships, and we talk a little bit about how we met our person in our lives, and the struggle. A lot of times when we in the Muslim culture, people tease us all the time because they think our marriages are arranged, and how that looks, because they're like, how'd you meet your wife, and they really don't sometimes understand how we truly meet our wives or our husbands, and how that looks. But so I thought we'd talk a little bit about that, but we thought we'd start with one of the most interesting marriages or interesting stories and how they met. And maybe we start with Jim, because it was kind of like an episode of Three's Company for a while, if you guys remember that show, and Jim was Jack. So Jim, how'd you meet your wife, and how's that relationship? Because how long you been married now? How many years?
So I'm going on in September, it'll be 40 years been married. I was so I knew my wife in high school. Her sister dated my friends, and her sister ended up marrying one of my friends. And we had this house where I was going to college here that I'm living in today, and she wanted to move in, and her and her girlfriend wanted to move in. And I told her, I said, listen, you've got to talk to my dad about this. I really don't, and I really felt uncomfortable, honestly, living because I would still have to go upstairs to use a shower. Although I lived downstairs, I would still have to go upstairs to use a shower. So we were all using the same. There was a shower in the one of the bedrooms, but still I would have to use the upstairs. So I really felt a little embarrassed to have ladies move into my girls move into my house. And so they talked to my dad, and they convinced him. My dad went to meet them she was working at a salon, and my dad said, yeah, go ahead and move in. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, please, Dad. I mean, really, honestly, I felt really embarrassed to have, 2 girls in the house there.
Especially in our culture, right? Like, that's kind of like,
yeah, it is. But, my dad had faith in me because he knew, he could trust me. And and honestly, I could trust
How'd that work
myself.
out, buddy?
Huh? No, I'm being honest with you. Because I doubt my dad.
Why they had to ask my dad is because he at that time he owned the house. It was our childhood home, and you're renting the house from him at the time. And so that's why they had to ask him, not
Right.
because
Exactly.
that you needed their permission for them to move in,
Right.
but because it was his house.
Yeah, and I really was hoping my dad would say no. Honestly, I really did. So, anyways, they moved in, and she was a friend of mine, just like our friend. And I honestly never would thought I would marry her. I really didn't, because she was a friend of mine, just like a friend, that I don't know, just like a regular friend. And I had a lot of friends that were girls, you know. And anyways, she actually attended, one of the events, and I'm not going to mention the event because it'll bring up a lot of stories, but she attended one of the events, and she was really a good friend of mine. We'd go out with other friends, and we just developed a really good friendship. I guess that's probably the best way to say it. And from that friendship, we end up getting married, and it was very tough on us because it wasn't something that was accepted by my side of the family. Faisal, my brother, was my best man at my wedding. He was the only one, really. Him and his wife were the only one on the two pews. And it was so sad because my wife was willing to convert. She was willing to do anything to make my dad happy, and it just didn't work. It wasn't that way. It wasn't acceptable. So
Especially then. So think about 40 years ago compared to now, right? I mean,
yeah, of course.
I think things
And you know what?
things
I get a lot
change.
of flack from my aunts and from my, because they really said, "Oh, well, you just opened the door for, everybody," but I fell in love with my wife. I love her to death. We have been through a lot together. I mean, a lot. Just probably more than normal. And we've always been there for each other, and she's always been there for me, even through the hard times I went through. She always stayed with me in the hospital. She was always my advocate when I was not able to talk for myself or anything. And really, it's a very hard way to explain the the bond that we have. And again, Debbie was think about it, she got threatened and all the stuff that went through. She stuck with it, and she stayed, and so thank God. It's a blessing from God. I just again want to thank God for the wonderful blessings that He has blessed me with. And He blessed me with two children, my son Jason, who is 37, and my daughter Monica, which is 35. I mean, it's just amazing that the way things worked out.
Yeah.
And
Eventually your parents
oh yeah,
accepted
yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah. My
Obviously,
father told me that my wife was his favorite daughter-in-law. So just to tell you that, I just wanted to let you know ahead of time.
man.
My dad said she's a favorite daughter-in-law.
That's why your dad, but our dad, I don't never heard that from. But
Yeah,
your
yeah.
dad
No, he
maybe.
told me. He said, yeah, she's. And then the other part of this is, Debbie accepted a lot of the culture. Like for example, whatever it is, she, and I hate to bring this out, in people, but when we dispatch sheep, we did it because it was part of our culture that things had to be halal, and halal means that the animal had to be dispatched in a humane way and no fear. And and my wife would help me with the skinning and getting the guts cleaned and doing all that stuff, that I doubt that most women would want to do. But she did help me with that, especially when we had to dispatch sheep for our family, for my parents or something of that nature.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah, I
just
mean, so you're 40 years you've been married. Like, what do you think? And Faisal only probably obviously been married a little longer, and we'll get to his
yeah.
story.
So there's a lot of give and take.
But
I just want to be honest with
yeah,
you.
what's the
We're
big thing?
we're
Like, what's the big
yeah.
takeaway?
So okay. So I just be honest with you. My wife really wants to make me happy. I mean, that really is the honest to God truth. She does, and I want to make my wife happy no matter what. And we have to compromise sometimes. We had a situation where the kids I wasn't comfortable with the kids going on the bus to go to school, and I wanted her to drive them to school because I was working and she was home, and she wanted them to get the experience of getting on the bus and going to school. So we compromised, and so for the first couple of years, she drove them to school. But then after that, they got on the bus and they went to school, and they got the experience of that. So, we had a lot of issues with our family, and not her family really. It was just kind of um, I guess we went to a wedding, and I don't want to mention the names of the wedding, but there was a Arab wedding, and we were all invited, by the groom's family, and I'm sorry, by the bride's family, but the one of the ladies was a little upset that I was bringing my American wife to this wedding, and I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I mean, where are you coming from saying this, And she was she was somebody that I really liked and actually was very friendly with. She was my mom's cousin, and I was really surprised that she approached me like that. And my mom told me, and honestly, after that, I never said a word to her. I would see her at events. I even saw her a couple of times outside at an event, and she would just not say hi to me. She recognized me, but she would just kind of walk by. But that's how strong of a feeling sometimes people have, you know. And it's sad because her son ended up marrying somebody out of the culture. So, but a good marriage really takes give and take. It really takes consideration for the other person, and you've got to, I don't care. You can never change anybody. So never think that you're going to marry somebody and change them, because it will never happen. They are the person that you marry is the person that you marry. And so you've got to adapt to them, and you've got to love them. I mean, that's really the issue. And that's what God wants. I mean, God wants us to be one. When we get married, we get married under God. I've been to I've been to a lot of your where you get married at the mosque with the imam or the sheikh, and it's all about God. So so we're bonded that way too. But
Yeah.
like I said, alhamdulillah and mashallah for the blessings God has bestowed upon us and bestowed on our children.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. So.
Well, good, man. Well, congratulations on 40 years. Debbie is a great person, and you're lucky to have her in your life. I don't know how
Alhamdulillah,
lucky I don't know how lucky she is, but you're lucky to have her. No, you guys are a great couple, and we remember a lot because we're young. I mean, you say 40 years. I'm 49 years old, so I was 9 years old when you got married. And everybody, but we remember all those times riding with Debbie and the things Debbie did for us, so I'm glad that she's part of the family. Our parents aren't here, but just because we talk about relationships, I mean, theirs probably was your typical arranged marriage, and in the Middle East and Palestine, and they've been married, I think, now what 60 years?
No. I'm 60. I'm going to be 62. They were married in 1959. I was born in 62. So they were married in 1959.
So almost 60 years.
They're
married in 1958.
58.
Oh, they're married in 58.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I looked at their marriage certificate. I thought it was 59.
So yeah, well, I mean, it's a long time. It's a long time.
So
it's a long time.
I did want to tell you that my mom did tell me the experience. Okay, so what it was my mom's dad was an American citizen. He had came to the United States. He had fought World War One, and then my mom was when she was born, since he was an American citizen, she is an American citizen by birth. And then the key to her was that my father's family was related or from the same clan or from the same tribe, And so, they wanted, I guess, one of my uncles, my older uncle, to marry my mom, but he had somebody else that he wanted to marry. So my dad was the next person in line. So they never really met. My mom told me that she saw him every once in a while, but she didn't really know him. And she said that her mom took him over to my father's house, the grandparents, and she found out she was getting married, and she was only, I think she was just turned 15 when she got married. I think she was I forget the date. She was her date of birth is 44 of 29 November 29, and I forget their marriage date was the 16th of November. Yeah, what's the anniversary for my parents?
Yeah, November 9th, I think. I got to go back and look, but
Yeah, no, no, no.
yeah,
It was November. I think it's November 16th.
this is the
So
9th.
you
Yeah,
figure
the
then on the
16th, and then my
29th,
mom's
yeah,
birthday is
she
the
turned
21st.
15.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Pops talked a little bit about that when he was on here. We're gonna get our mom on here because I think she would have some great stories too. So, but that just shows you though. That's your typical arranged marriage, and they've been
Yeah,
married almost over 60 years now.
yeah, and yeah,
But it's
exactly.
also still a give and take. You got to get to know the person, and then you got to be able to, work and get those quirks out of the way. And sometimes, yeah, people don't change, and you accept that and with it. Um, but Faisal, so I know Tammy was your high school sweetheart, and you had to chase her for a few years before she gave you the time of day. But how long you been married now?
Yeah, January it was 40 years. So um, uh, this January will be 40 years. I think I'm like 6 months ahead of Jim. But yeah, I met her in high school, and the weird thing about it, went out on the first date, and I didn't realize, I don't know if I told you all the story, but she said she wanted a beer. I wasn't old enough to buy a beer. I stopped 7-Eleven on Lafayette Boulevard, and I walked in and got a Budweiser and put it on the counter. The guy sold it to me. So I let her drink it. So I told her, I said, "This is the last time we're going out." She said, "Why?" Because I don't want somebody that's going to drink. She ain't never drank since. We still got a wine that we got at our wedding. We still got it. But anyhow, yeah, I met her in high school. We had took a while, to coordinate going out and everything. She used to bring me lunch. I worked at the state park, Lake Hanna State Park. She'd bring me lunch, and I'd bring her lunch at the hospital, the old hospital. And we dated. Then we quit dating, for a while. Her dad, was a little different. He died a long time ago. My parents were, not the best, towards that situation. And so, one day we just said, just forget it. It's, what the headache. We stopped talking for like 6 months, something like that. And then got back together, and then, we got married January 25th, 1985. So we've been married a long time. We really never had no major issues. One, like, yeah, we both worked our whole career, so that helped, because, and, a lot of people keep their money separate. I make this money, you make that money. Well, ever since we've been married, our money goes together. So, we just pay the regular bills out of it, and do whatever with the rest of it. And then, but yeah, it was hard, to start with. I think because of the culture difference, my parents were going to boycott and not come, which I, personally at that time, I didn't, wasn't that big a deal to me, Then they ended up coming, we didn't have a fancy wedding. We just had it didn't really cost nothing at all. All the food was made by people. And we had the little wedding at her parents' house in Todd's Tavern. We had the reception at the community center in Todd's Tavern. Everybody, the American people and the Arabic people mixed together well, and everybody got along, which was like weird, but it worked, we got married. I bought a place out in Burr Hill, on my own. I had saved up money working at the park, and my dad was like, "How did you put $10,000 down on a place? You didn't have no money." I'm like, "Yeah, I had money, So I closed on that place in November 1984. So I moved out of my parents' house before I got married, a couple months. Moved into the place I bought in Burr Hill, and we lived there, like 5 years, and then we bought a piece of land out in Rhodesville, and Tammy wanted to build a log house, so we built a log house. I did a lot of it myself. Anyhow, make a long story short, we've been together 40 years. We got 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. We moved to Halifax 20 years ago. Sometimes I think that was a mistake. Sometimes I think it wasn't a mistake, but
you make the best out of it. Yeah. Because you make the best out of it. You know what I mean? Like regardless of where you're at, you still have your family.
Yeah, I got my kids. We get along good. We never have no problems. I got 6 grandkids and 1 more on the way. They spend a lot of time with me, back and forth and going to the farm and coming to the car lot. And, this is the thing. And I don't know about everybody else's marriage, but we've never had any major problems. I'm kind of easygoing. And, if she wants to do something, even if I don't agree with it 100%, I'll let her do it. If I want to do something, she's the same way. She don't try to step on my feet. We never lived fancy. We never lived like over our expected means. We met in high school, and that's just the way. I kind of went with the flow, and it's been 40 years, and
thank God for that.
Yeah, I could trade her in now, get all my money back that I gave her. Maybe I would do it.
Well, Faisal, so I know you talked a little bit about, the culture and the differences. So, for the years, and especially in the Arabic culture, they always wanted you to marry somebody within somebody the same, religion, sometimes even from the same, town that you're from, and so that was, 40 some years ago, that was really hard for somebody to accept, especially a parent, especially when the 2 oldest didn't follow tradition, because they figure all the oldest. But one of the things you did that the story I always hear is the way you got your parents really sucked in and to attend the wedding is you went kind of and asked your grandmother, our grandmother at the time. Did you talk to her? And or was that just a story we always hear that you?
Yeah, she was living in Culpeper, but I talked to both grandmas, and but my dad's mom, she was against it, but she was living in Culpeper with my uncle, and she was like, oh, don't get married, it's not right. And I'm like, I think, this is the girl for me, even if I marry an Arabic girl down the road and it don't work out, I think she talked to my parents and convinced them to come, and in my city, the one that raised me, she was like, you know, do what you think is best for yourself, um, and so yeah, that she did talk to my parents about coming to the wedding.
Well, good man. Well, I met Tammy. Again, 40 years, and I know your situation was a little different than Jim's in the sense of we all were involved in the sense we went to your wedding, we were there, and both everybody's became part of our lives, and you live right down the road from us. Remember, going your house and spending the night, and then you became really close with her family because I remember even Mike and you coming over to our house playing video games all the time, and so it was it's been a great marriage. I think she puts up more than you put up with. She has to put up with you, right?
Yeah, but yeah, like I'm retired. She still works, so I got to go along with what she says because she brings in the money.
There you go. There you go. All right, Todd. So, Todd. So, how long have you been married now?
Can you hear me?
So to let you guys know, Todd is at a basketball tournament in Philadelphia. So sorry about all the background noise you're going to hear for a few minutes, but
yeah, I've been married. We got engaged in '93. We got married in '94. It was interesting. It's like what Jim and Faisal said. It's give and go. I'd say when we got engaged, it was quick. I mean, I went overseas. My parents wanted to go there, take care of some business. And I was in college about to finish. They took me with them. We landed, went to the house, got settled in. And then, they were like, oh, well, what, we're going to start, don't you want to get married? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Let me think about it. Then that night, we went to eat at somewhere. Then we went to drink tea at my in-laws' house with my future in-laws at that time. And I met my future wife there. And then, we talked, but her English wasn't really that great. My Arabic wasn't that great. And then, we were leaving. We left. I drank. We're walking back home. My mom was already planning the engagement.
So your marriage is your almost your traditional marriage, right? Where you got introduced to somebody.
Yeah. I mean, then like I had a choice. She had a choice, but we got back home, and then the next day, this lady came over, and she asked my parents, "Oh, what did y'all say? What we need to know a decision. We got to tell them." Blah blah blah. Then we got engaged that week. Within 5 days, I was engaged, and that was in '93. And then in August of '94, we got married in Fairfax at the Marriott, and big wedding and spent a lot of money. Good wedding. And then we've been married ever since then. I got 3 kids. My son's working on his master's, and then my daughter graduating this year. And my other son, we're here in Philadelphia watching him play. He's 15, a sophomore. And we had ups and downs. It wasn't perfect. But I think the main reason that we're still together after 30 years is because she works full-time retail. I work full-time retail. So there was times where we didn't see each other. She's been at JCPenney's for 30 years, and I've went 3 different jobs over that same time period. we didn't see each other. So a lot of times we depended on, when we had kids, we didn't have kids for the first 6 years. And then after that, when we did have kids, we depended on my mom and Shadia and the family to watch my son, Tadic, when he was little. I think everybody took turns watching him, because we worked. I think that's why we haven't had many issues. And if we have issues, it's always about one or two things: where we're going to eat and how much money a certain person in the relationship spends, not me. So, but it's been up and down, but we've had 3 houses. We had a house, a Cottonwood townhouse, and then the second house in Falcon Ridge, and the house we live now. So all in the general same area. So, and so I think we give and go. It's like what Jim said, what Faisal said. If she wants something, she's going to buy it at this point. No point in me saying no. If I want something, I buy it. And if we want to go somewhere, we go. But so far, all these years later, I look back at it. I mean, it was meant to be, I guess,
Yeah. So like 2 things real fast. So when you got engaged, and so the important thing to let people know is you were engaged for a year. She was still living in the Middle East, and you were living here, but you got to know each other through, letters and phone calls and things like that. So at any time in that year, if one of you guys decided, man, this person's not right for us, you could have said, you know what, I'm done.
Yeah. For that 1 year, I would call her every Sunday. It was 11 months exactly. I would call her every Sunday, and I would write letters. She still has them, like about my life, about that, and I would send them to her. And, and so she could change her mind. I could have changed my mind. When she came over here to get married, she came the week before the wedding. My sisters, everybody already had set up everything. She didn't have a say over anything on the wedding. And
that was the first time we had met her too.
Yeah. I hadn't seen her in 11 months. So she came a week before, came to New Orleans. That's where her father lived, her family lived. And then she came here a week before the wedding. We had to get her dress fixed. She had to, the wedding was set. So then when we lived out in the country, I forgot that we did live in a small house in the country for the first 3 years. I think that's when we had the most turbulence, was those first 3 years, because I was getting to know her, she was getting to know me, and we both had to get to know my parents. And we had that first, but once we moved to the townhouse, it was a lot smoother.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not. Joe's trying to start trouble over here. We're not starting. I was like, no, I can't ask about the wedding dress, Joe. No, Joe.
I can tell the story. It's funny. It's a funny story because it's funny because it's the way it was back then. So we got married, wedding dress and all that. I had the house in the country. I went to look at townhouses because it was too far. I was working in town. Rod was working in town. It was just too far to drive. I went to look at townhouses with my dad. We put an offer on one, and where we put an offer on one, we ended up not getting it. Then the realtor found me another one in the same subdivision, same price. So I put a bid on it. I got it. And then I went and told my dad, oh, I got this house. He's like, oh, no, you didn't take me to see the house. I'm like, it's the same house, just next door. So when we decided to move, because we bought the house, my mom wouldn't let Ryder take her wedding dress because she was mad that we were moving. And they held it hostage. And my wife was like, y'all can keep it. I'm never wearing it again. We got it. It's still sitting in our closet. We got it back. I didn't have any furniture, and I did stop to look at furniture, but I got ratted out by somebody, I'm not going to mention any names, who saw me looking at furniture. His name might be Soph Dog. He ratted me out, saw my dad, I was looking at furniture. So my parents were funny. They didn't want me to buy new furniture. They wanted me to take my old furniture. So that's what ended up happening. I got the old furniture to the townhouse that we took with us to Falcon Ridge, that we took with us to the house we live in now, that about 15 years ago, I gave them away.
Yeah, so a couple things kind of, and I remember, and obviously you have to be strong-willed and you have to have resilience. Like you and your wife both work retail. You guys lived in the country. She didn't drive at the time. So
Yeah.
when you worked at Best Buy, she had to come with you, sleep in the car until it was time for her to go to work, and then you would go on break, right?
Yeah. So when I worked at Best Buy, my shift was 6 to 3 o'clock. She worked at J.C. Penney's. Her shift was 10 to 6 o'clock. So I would drive because it was too far away. It was more than a half hour away. So she would drive with me, sleep in the back, and then I would take my break at 9:15, drive her to the mall. She would change, put on her makeup, and go. My boss thought we were homeless for the first year. She saw my wife sleeping in the car, and she came and asked me, "Are y'all homeless? Do y'all sleep in the car?" I said, "No." I said, "Just we only have one car," and it worked out. We did that for a long time, and then finally she had her license, and I got her a 1995 brand new Dodge Neon, and she's been driving ever since then. And but it all changed when we moved to the townhouse. It was a lot smoother. Work was closer. All that. It was a
And
lot
she's still
better.
not driving the Neon. She's still driving, but not the Neon, is what you're saying.
She drove a Neon, and then another Neon, and then a Mitsubishi, and now she drives a Nissan. So she's only had the 4 cars for the last 30 years.
Well, good, man. Well, I know there was a lot of hardship and things like that, and I mean, we really know that she's the boss, but that's how the relationship works. Is as long as you know she's the boss, then you're okay, right?
Look, at the end of the day, as long as everybody's happy, like I said, I let her do what she wants, and we do what we want. I'm here in Philadelphia since Friday, and she's holding down the fort with Hannah and Kobe.
Don't act like you went to Philadelphia on a party excursion. You were there for a basketball tournament, buddy. So it's not like you're
I'm
out
just saying.
partying with the guys.
Oh, believe me, with my boys, it's like partying because all they like to do is eat and spend my money.
All right. Well, good, man. Well, so maybe we skip to one of our sisters instead of, because you just heard from three of the brothers. So let's start with Melissa, and talk a little bit about how long you've been married, the kids, why relationships important, the give and take, and on your end as well.
Yeah, I've been married since 2001. So I've been married for about going on 23 years in May. I got engaged in 99, got married in 2001. I have 4 kids, 20-year-old son, 3 girls, 17, almost 15, and 13. And we got engaged overseas back in 1999. We went on a trip overseas with my dad, my mom, and Shadia. Met him there. We stayed engaged for about 2 years, got married, after we got married, we moved to Cleveland, Ohio for about 2001 to like 2006. And then in 2006, we decided to sell our house there and we moved back to Fredericksburg. And we've been here since then. I mean, I really think that any marriage is really about patience and about give and take. There's a lot of, if you ask my kids, they say, my husband was born and raised overseas, but they say I'm the stricter parent, so it's a little give and take on the relationship. And if you want it, if you want it to work, I mean, there's some things that I might view that he might not view, or vice versa, because, we grew up being, a little more Americanized, and he's more religious. But no, I mean, alhamdulillah, everything works out at the end of the day, as long as everybody's happy. And he might, I do something that he might not like, but he does something maybe I don't like, but we just compromise at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you learn from each other, right? I mean, he came from your, he came from a traditional background, Middle Eastern, Arabic, Palestinian background, right? And you came more from an Americanized background, but then you learn from everything that he brings to the table, and he learned a lot about what you brought to the table too, right? And you compromise and kind of go from there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really thankful because when I first, married him, I didn't pray 5 times a day. I didn't know a lot about our religion, and he taught me a lot about the religion and how to pray and pass it along to our kids. And that's something I'm really thankful for because it's something that, I wanted to do, maybe as I was a teenager, because, when we were younger, we really didn't practice a lot of it. So I am thankful for it. And he's got some of the Americanized with, especially with the kids and stuff like that. So, but no, alhamdulillah, everything works out, and, you just gotta give and take, patience. I think any marriage is really patience.
Yeah, it's important. The question I have for you is, who's the better cook?
No, Marwan likes to cook. I'm not gonna lie. If I tell you that I like to cook, I'm gonna lie to you. If it's my day to cook, you can ask my kids. I will give you the easiest thing: noodles and sauce, right there. That's going to be the easiest thing. He likes to cook, but also at the same time, he doesn't work. He hasn't worked in about 12 or 13 years because of his congested heart failure. So that's something that he enjoys doing, keeps him occupied and stuff like that. So, but alhamdulillah,
Yeah, no, and that's the compromise. Things like that happen, and it works out at the end of the day, especially with 4 kids and having somebody there for them. And that's one of probably the biggest compromises. Now I know you say you're a little stricter, but you're also a little more like worried. Like, did something happen the other night? Because I hear a story about Muhammad wanted to leave, and you don't want him to go by himself, and I didn't get the full story, but I'm trying to get the story now. What happened?
Okay, so Marwan's a little like laid back when it comes to the kids. Like, it's surprising though, right? Mesa got her license. Now I'm like, no, she can't really drive by herself yet. But he's like, she got her license. What did she get her license for? She can't drive by herself. But Muhammad, the other night, we were at the dinner and wanted to go meet a guy on 17 for something. And I just didn't feel comfortable him driving on the highway, especially at night. And it kind of like, I don't know, just got on my feelings.
Yeah, did you have tears? Like, they were like, why is Aunt Melissa crying? I was like, what do you mean she was crying? She was petting the sheep 2 seconds ago. Like,
I know. I just got in my feelings, and I don't know. Sometimes I don't want to let go. I don't know. And it's just me. It's just the worry in me. I just worry a lot. I don't know. I just worry about everything. So it's just the worry in me.
Yeah, I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. They were asking me, like, why was Aunt Melissa? I have no clue. I think she was just fine 2 seconds ago. But I remember he had to go pick up parts for his car. And I was like, oh, I bet you that's what it was, that she didn't want him to go by himself to go pick up parts. But it's nice to worry. It's nice to have that, that you still care,
Yeah. I know. I mean, maybe I get it from, I don't know, maybe I get it from my mom, because I feel like my mom has always been a worried bee ever since we were young. But I just, I can't let go. I'm always like, what time they go to work? I text them to make sure they get to work. I text them on their way home. I don't know. I'm trying to get better at it, but it's hard.
Well, good. Well, so I'll talk a little bit about myself, and then we'll go to Sam. So I've been married to my wife for 24 years this year. So 24 years. She's been lucky enough to be married to me. Now she hears it. She's upstairs. Yeah, she hears everything. So I'm going to tell you the truth because she's right upstairs. And so I met her in Ohio at a wedding. We were both at the same wedding. And she seen me from across the room. And she just locked into me. And she laughing, right? Because she knows the truth. She locked. And she kept on asking who I was. And then, so that was 24 years ago. We were engaged for a little while, got to know each other. She's originally from Florida, and obviously in Virginia, and that's how much she fell in love. I was like, you got to move to Virginia. That's where my family's at, and she was on that first plane, and it's the same setup. Like, we were setting up for the wedding, and she just showed up. And but I just remember, and it's still true to this day, I was out buying furniture because we lived with our parents. My parents, in the basement, they had a full basement down there, a full basement apartment, right? You guys, because
probably so.
Yeah, it's still. You never been there. You never slept in that. So they had this 1,200 square foot, 2-bedroom apartment. And that's where we lived. And the importance of a relationship is I was out buying furniture without her. And I walked into the furniture store and the lady goes, where? I thought I was getting married. And then my wife's going to move here. And she goes, where's your wife? And so she's not here yet. And I'm going to get the furniture before she shows up. And she goes, I'm going to tell you the truth. You should have your wife here because a happy wife makes a happy life. And I didn't listen to her. So I bought the furniture anyhow. And, when it got here, it wasn't everything that she wanted. And because I was, I like big items and I had dressed the basement up. But over time, you really understand that it is a compromise. Sometimes what I don't like, she does, and I'm okay with it. Like, the couches we have upstairs now, it's not the kind of couches I wanted, not the color I wanted. I wanted a sectional, but I compromised because, at the end of the day, it's just a couch and everybody's going to use it and it's comfortable and it wasn't about the material stuff. And so you do have to compromise and you do have to give and take. There's a lot of things that I've done that are probably, not bad things, but things that, are, you have to have somebody that's on your side that's going to really support you. That's from opening your own business. We opened up a restaurant and you have to have somebody on your side who's going to support you in that restaurant endeavor and willing to give up a lot while you try to make it successful, but at the end of the day, 24 years, we have Amna who's 17 years old now. We're actually giving Amna a hard time yesterday. We're like, man, Mom and I have been married 24 years. And I said, imagine if we had a kid right when we got married, they'd have been 23, 24 years old now. And Amna goes, I would have been. I said, no. I said, you wouldn't have been, because I still think Amna would have been at her time. But I told her, I said, but God, at that point, we're married for a long time. It tells you when it's time, and it was time. And Amna was the one. Amna's 17 years old, and it's been a blessing to our lives. And I always ask Amna all the time since she was little. I said, how long do me and Mom have left? And since she was little, I said, because she always knew the number was 18. And so I asked her now, like, how long we have left? Oh, 1 year. But sometimes a kid helps a relationship and being part of that. And it does help that you compromise, and it does help that, we both, I'm a principal at a high school and she's, a nurse, and you figure out the compromises on what's important and who's important. And you take turns. Like when Amna was sick, little, who would take off work to go be with Amna? Amna's important to us. My wife thought her job was more important because she was saving lives. I thought my job was important because I was teaching the people who are going to save lives in the future, but then you compromise and you took turns and it kind of works out at the end of the day. So to this day, she still looks at me across the room and she still has his googly eyes every time I like, almost like I'm not gonna lie, almost like I'm a piece of meat sometimes. I feel like I tell her Dinya's Ramadan and she can't, but you're not coming downstairs, are you, to tell the truth, are you? So
I was going to ask you, could you please bring her down so we could talk to her?
So
I do want to say one thing, brother, if you don't mind, is that there's a stigma about not having babies after you're married. For some reason, the parents get worried about their child after they get married, and they don't have children right away. They kind of like worry about it. And
we I don't say we were harassed, but they were like, what's wrong? Why can't you have a kid? What's wrong? There's something wrong with you? Something wrong with your wife? And then it was like, hey, when you have a kid, we're going to buy this for the kid and that for the kid. I think it's just they want grandkids, and they want more grandkids. And, and it's when it's God's time to give you a kid, if he wants to, that be part of your life, then they're going to provide that opportunity to you. And that was probably one of the biggest emotional things that we've had is not having a kid right away. But when you do, it really changes your life. And that being that, we talk about relationships, relationship with your kid is important too. And a kid really changes your life. It changes your perspective on life. It changes the way you do things. in life, and also you work hard to make sure they have a better life than you did, and you set them up for success. So I think we both do that. But so that's my story, and I think everybody says the same thing. It is a give and take. It's a 50-50 relationship. Sometimes you gotta pretend like you let them win, even though they sometimes they shouldn't win, but you compromise, and it's both ways. Um, you know, um, we both help cook, we both help clean. I think I do most of the hard work around here. While she relaxes, she always wants like. I'll tell you something about Todd. I don't know if Todd went away, but Todd, why Todd's relationship is so strong.
I'm here.
His wife snaps her fingers, and he makes her a grilled cheese sandwich and brings her tea to her every day. So I don't know who's doing that for her right now, but Hannah's doing that.
Hannah's doing. Hey, Reith, I might have to. So I'm getting ready to move. So
yeah, no problem, brother.
Yeah, but no, I was just gonna say, that just in general, all relationships are give and go. Even with your kids, and what Reith said about having a kid, that was the most stressful because we had agreed when we got married to wait 5 years, and that was 5 years was very stressful because my parents would ask me on a weekly basis, what's wrong? What, we want to, I was like, it takes 9 months, then we decided to wait, but that was, like I said earlier, that first 3 years was very stressful. That was part of it. But once we had the first kid and, second kid, third kid, they wanted grandkids, but that was part of the stress for the first 3 years.
Yeah. All right, Sam. So, I know Maria's the love of your life and it was love at first sight. So tell us a little bit about relationships with your marriage and a little bit about relationships with the kids and things like that.
Yeah, definitely. My wife, Maria, we've been married 22 years. August will be 22 years. And I know Todd got off, but if it wasn't for Todd and his wife, Rida, then I would have never met my wife because they're actually cousins. And so they introduced me to Maria. So we've been married, like I said, 22 years. We have 3 kids. My oldest, Yasmin, she'll be 21 in June. Wally, he's the middle. He'll be 18 in April. And then the youngest, Amira, she's 13. So we talk about relationships, and we talk about marriage, and we talk about all the good stuff that comes with it. But it is hard. It's if anyone ever tells you they have a perfect marriage, they're lying to you, right? Because marriage is hard. It's a give and take, and it's like the yin and the yang. You have to know. You have to have patience with marriage. If you don't have patience, marriage is not for you, right? You definitely have to have patience. I will tell you, as I know we're talking about kids, and I know Reith was talking about waiting to have kids and all that good stuff. Well, we got married August. I was working, in the restaurant business. And we waited about 10 days, 15 days before we went on our honeymoon, and we took a cruise. And I said, hey, I've never been on a cruise before. She's never been on a cruise before. So we took a cruise and went on a cruise, and we went to the Caribbeans, and it was nice. It was a great time. And we came back, and about 2 days later, I went to work, and she hadn't started working yet. And I said, all right, when you think about marriage, you think you come home and you got this 3-course dinner cooked on the table waiting for you. So I get home and my wife's sleeping. I was like, oh, okay. She's tired from the cruise. No problem. First day, second day, third day. I was like, hey, what's going on? She's like, well, I'm not really feeling good. It's like, all right, well, the insurance doesn't kick in until the first of, since we got married, my insurance doesn't kick in until the first of the month. So if you need to go to the doctor, go to the doctor. We could pay for it, whatever. So Jamal's wife, Summer, actually took her to the urgent care, and I was at work. She called me. She's like, I found out why I'm not feeling good. I was like, why? She's like, well, I'm pregnant. I was like, pregnant? I was like, we just got married. And she's like, yeah. She's like, so Yasmin was born in June of 2003. And I will tell you it really, it was something else because, we're both young parents and trying to have a brand new baby and then trying to figure it all out. It was definitely tough. And one of the things is my wife worked at an OBGYN all the way up until her 9th month of pregnancy. And then she went on LOA. And the goal is that after 6 or 8 weeks after Yasmin was born, that she was going to take her maternity leave. Then we started looking at daycare, and the daycare for a new baby was crazy expensive. It was like, $400 a week. It was like $1,600 a month. And I was like, look, I think it's best that you stay home and not work, because what you're making is all going to go to daycare. So that's what she did. She stayed home with all of our kids. And I tell you, it's a blessing that we were able to do that. And Reith was talking about, Todd was talking about, everyone was talking about kids getting sick and having to take off of work and all that. We made it work, right? We made it work. And it wasn't always easy, right? Financially, it wasn't easy, right? Having one income coming in, trying to pay the bills and all that. So it was a lot of patience. And there's a lot of things that we sacrificed, right? And early on in our marriage and even now, I mean, we don't drive fancy cars and have fancy things because you live to your means, right? And that's one of the things that, I really appreciate about my wife, is that she understands, that we have to do it together, right? We have to do it together. And she's done a lot for me. I've worked a lot of late night hours working in restaurant business. Everyone knows full service, quick service, whatever it is. It's a lot of late nights. It's a lot of days that you're leaving early and coming home late. And so relationships are definitely, it's both ways, but we have a great relationship. We have a great family. My kids love their cousins and they like to hang out with their cousins and they're closer to their cousins. And me, Reith, and Todd, we all lived, and Joe at one time, we all lived in the same neighborhood. We live 5 minutes from our parents, 5 minutes from our sister. So
except for the golden child.
The golden child. She's a couple hours away. Jim's an hour away. Faisal's a few hours away. Jamal's right around the corner. So family is important, right? Family is important, especially for marriage. Family is important. So,
hey, let me ask you a question, Sam. Do you remember the name of the cruise ship you were on when you went on your honeymoon?
I remember the cruise ship. It was the Carnival Pride.
So how come Yasmin's name is not Pride? Like, aren't you supposed to, where you conceive the baby, that's what you're supposed to name the baby, or no?
No, so I named Yasmin, I named Waleed, and I named Amira. So I named all three of the kids. I think
so
we talked about
your wife
that
didn't get a decision? So your wife didn't get a decision? Your wife didn't get a decision on the naming of your kids?
We talked about it. The one that I told her 100% is if we have a boy, we're going to name him Waleed. That was 100%. But Yasmin and Amir, we definitely talked about it. And but I tell you, having kids is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I'm sure everyone will say that because they make you realize who you are, right? And they make you realize, like Melissa was talking about, worrying about Muhammad, right? And I think a lot of times the moms worry more than the fathers, right? And because for us, Maria worries all the time. Yasmin's been driving for a few years. Wally's been driving for a few years. And she's like, no, we can't let them go. I'm like, look, they got their license. They're going to go. So I was like, I had the final say. They did it. And
you had the final say. Where's Maria? Maria, right. He said he has the final say. Just remember that.
I had the final say on the driving. But yeah, we have a great. Yeah, we have a great relationship and stuff, and I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change anything a bit. I know that one of the things that's going to be happening soon in the next 4 or 5 months, Wally's going to be going away to college, and I already know Maria. I already ordered a case, which is about 5,000 tissues for her. But we're definitely going to miss him when he's not here every day like he is. But that's part of growing up, right? You got to let the kids grow up, and they got to spread their wings.
Well, yeah, it's true, man. It's true. All right. So in studio today, we got what's that? Yeah, we get Shad. Yeah, Shad. We're just we're gonna mix it up a little bit, and we got Joe over here. And Joe, how long you been married?
Yeah, so I've been right now, as of right now, I've been married 18 years.
Yeah.
So we got married and met her in 04 and got married in May of 05.
Yeah. How many kids you got now?
We have 3 girls, so 17, 16, and 13.
Yeah, you got one graduating this year
I
too.
got one graduating and one actually going where Wally's going. She's going to tech.
Yeah, you think they're gonna be roommates in tech?
Probably not. They probably won't even talk to each other.
No.
No.
They're two different majors, but it's neat that they're both going to go to the same college, So
Yeah.
she'll know somebody there.
Yeah, well, they're both, I think, quiet on the shy side. So, but yeah, we've been 18 years and originally lived in Fredericksburg, but then moved to North Carolina for a couple of years, where some of her family's from, and then it just wasn't doing it for me to North Carolina. Then we moved back to Richmond, and that's where we kind of have our roots there in Midlothian. But with marriage, sometimes it's ups and downs, and it's not perfect. And I was in a retail for a little bit. She was in a corporate life, and then I ended up opening up a dealership for the last 15 years. So it gave me the opportunity to do the stuff I need to do with the kids. Just like Sam was saying, we looked at daycare and having 3 kids. One was born in 06, 08, 2010. So we tried the daycare thing, and that's like he was saying, it's like almost $2,000 a month. So we had to give or take. So I opened up my own dealership. So I did the pickup, drop off. I did the doctor's appointments. So I had the opportunity to grow with them as much as I can while she worked, and so it was good. We didn't have family around the Richmond area because we didn't have anybody to help us out. So we had to compromise. So I left my career while she worked in her career, and to this day, I remember everything, all the birthday parties, the soccer games. I was there for everything. So
yeah, it has to be in a relationship. It has to be a compromise, right?
It has
to be something. So if somebody's going one way and you don't have family, that was the hard part. You've been in Richmond. Here it's a little easier because there's family everywhere. But you have to have that compromise of who does what and who give and take.
Well, yeah, you have to, because if you don't, then you have to depend on strangers raising your own kids, and that's one thing we didn't want, is somebody else raising our own kids. But marriage is tough. You have to look at the other person and see what they bring to the table, and if they I'm big on family. I'm big on, our family is close. We have a big family. We're close. But have to look at the other side and say, or do they cherish their family as much as you cherish your family? And sometimes they don't, and sometimes stuff works out. But I'm blessed with 3 girls, and they're healthy, they're happy, and they're smart, and that's all I can ask for, really.
Yeah, well, good, man. Good. I think what people are going to realize everywhere in any relationship is relationships aren't easy. Like, who said it? Somebody said it. No, I don't know of any relationship that 100% is easy. And if you don't have some kind of compromise in it and forgiveness, like, you can't hold grudges and you can't be mad forever, and you got to be able to move on, because if you don't,
you'll never be happy. Or you'll never grow if you have another relationship.
Yeah. All right, sister, golden child, Shadya. So talk a little bit about it to us before we get to the only non-married person in this Abed 11.
Yes, sir. So first I want to talk culturally. as Muslims, as Arabs, like in a lot of cultures and a lot of religions, they want you to marry within the religion. So of course, our parents, that was like a big thing that they input in my mind. And I grew to believe that too, because, I knew I wanted kids. I knew I wanted a family. And I knew that if I was going to marry someone of a different culture, different religion, it's going to be a lot harder deciding for my kids, how I'm going to raise them and everything like that. So culturally, we had that in our mind, and culturally, and I know times have changed now because there's like Muslim dating apps and different ways to converse and stuff, and Facebook and social media. But when I was growing up, we didn't have as much of that stuff. And so as Muslims, we don't believe in dating just for the fun of dating. We believe in courting. Like when you know you're ready to get married, you're ready to have that life, that marriage, those kids, that we believe in courting, getting to know someone and dating for the sake of getting married, not dating for the sake of having fun, going out clubbing. And so that's how, I grew up believing, and I never dated, but I courted. So, in 2007, after I graduated college, I went
Well,
overseas.
hold on. You courted not growing up. You're just talking about when you met your husband. Like you
Right,
didn't court a lot. Like I
right,
just want to make sure people knew that.
right. But I didn't have I know my, two oldest brothers talked about like dating and stuff. I didn't have the dating lifestyle. Because we believed in it, little different thing. And so in 2007, I went overseas after college for vacation, and that's the first time I met my husband, but at that time I didn't think he was going to be my husband. We
Oh,
were
we were in a
invited to
hayride together.
yeah, we went to my mom's friend's house, who happens to be his aunt, and she had a barbecue, and she had invited him and his brother. They were on vacation overseas as well, and she had invited myself, Ree's family, Todd's family, and my parents, and we went to this barbecue at his aunt's house, who was my mom's friend / neighbor. And I met him and his brother there, and I was kind of annoyed by him because he wanted to come back to America. He's like, I'm not having fun here. And, his brother was funny, but I was like, this guy, like, he's ruining the vibe here. He didn't like his vacation there, and he wanted to come back to America. So, his cousin at the time, my mom's friend's son, took us on a hayride to show us my mom's old land. And so Reese, Todd, me, and my husband and his brother went on this hayride. And so that was the first time we actually met, but I didn't really think anything of it. About maybe a year and a half, 2 years later, we met again at a wedding in Virginia. And, they asked if, I would be interested in talking to him and courting him. And so then that's when we started talking. And, I was like, I think this might work out. And so we decided, we got engaged for, actually it wasn't that long. I would say probably like 7 months. And then we end up getting married. And so the whole time, just like Todd, through that courtship, we dated, or courted. He took me out every weekend. We talked almost every night. I got to know him. And at any time that, if I was like, you know what, this isn't going to work out in a courtship, that's when you break it off. And then you go on, move on with your life. But alhamdulillah, everything worked out at that point. And we end up getting married. Now, in our religion, in the Muslim religion, the guy pays for the wedding. And so he asked me like what color I wanted the flowers and everything like that. And but I didn't have that much input in the weddings. And when we talk about like Reese and his wedding and Todd and his wedding, and like why the women didn't have that much input, that would be one of the things. So he lived in North Carolina at the time. And the funny thing is, he had a convenience store. And all my life growing up, I said, I'm never going to marry someone with a convenience store, because my dad owned a convenience store growing up, and it was always about the convenience store. We lived in that convenience store. And I said, I don't want that for my family. But then I end up marrying someone with a convenience store. So never say never. And I moved to North Carolina. I will say, one of the biggest things I do regret is moving away from my family, because, no one's going to be like your own family. And living in Virginia, like we had that bond, like we went over each other's house. We're such a big family. It was like, we didn't need anybody else. We had each other. And so I didn't think it was going to impact me that much, but I will tell you, moving away from my family did impact me a lot. And then also is when you get married for Muslims, it was the first time you live together. So you don't really know someone until you live with them. So you have to kind of work with everything. Just like everyone's been saying, it's like a give and take. You got to, learn their habits and their ways and kind of compromise with your ways and your habits. So about 2 years after we got married, we had our first kid. I taught, he had a convenience store. And just like everyone else is saying, I put her in daycare for the first year. She was in daycare for 3 days. My mother-in-law watched her for 2 days. I hated it. I mean, I'll go pick her up from daycare, come home, cook dinner, give her a bath, start all over again. I felt like someone else was raising my kid. And I was like, I can't do this. So after that first year, we talked. We said, you know what? I'm going to stay at home. And I ended up staying at home for 10 years. I had another kid, and I, same thing. If they were sick, I was there for them, everything like that while he was in his business. And I think that's really important if you can do that. And then I decided to go back to work, but I knew I still needed to be at home because it's hard for him to take off if one of the kids gets sick from school. It's hard for him to take off, in the convenience store business if something happens. I knew I needed to still be home for my kids. So I found a work home teaching job, and that's what I do now. And, I believe the kids, and I'm not saying this in any negative way. I'm saying it in a positive way. I believe the kids have held a lot of relationships together. I believe if we didn't have the kids, we would think it's so easy just to leave and go move on anytime we had a fight, anytime we had a battle. But, these kids, they're glued to us. They're stuck, with us, and we have to make sure they have that good upbringing, and we have to make sure we do what's best for them. And, sometimes marriage isn't always best for them, but I think it helps keep us together because it makes it a lot harder to say, oh no, we had a fight, we're going to go back to wherever. No, once we have the kids, it's not that easy. And it makes us second think everything, second think every fight, second think every argument, second think every time we say, something, because we want to make it work for the kids. And we say, you know what, maybe it's not that big of a deal. Like, is it really worth doing this for, and so I think that's important to think about too. So we've been married for this year will be 15 years. We have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, alhamdulillah. And like everyone said, it's a lot. It's not perfect. It's a lot of give and take. And, we're still working on it every day.
Every day. And every day, sometimes you learn something new about somebody, Yep. So every day. I started learning every day that my wife's truly mad in love with me. So I don't know. Sophie. So Sophie thinks he's a smart one. And I'll tell you why Sophie thinks he's a smart one. Because Sophie's not married. He has no kids. He has just his chihuahuas. But Chihuahua now, but yeah, 3 Chihuahuas at one point, and so is there a reason? I mean, how old are you now? 42 years old. Is there a reason that you've never said, I want to get married? Like, or is it just something that, one, is it something that just never really crossed your mind, or like,
Nah, just something. I'm gonna be the smart one, be different.
You want to be different than the rest of us? Yeah. But you see that all of us in a relationship, I mean, you see all the good. I mean, you're at all of our houses all the time. Like, you don't see anything negative. You just, because it's your choice.
Right.
Yeah. Can you tell us about how you picked up your last girlfriend?
Which one?
Your last one, the one, like, how did you pick up Lisa?
I was doing Uber.
You were Uber, and she, you were doing Uber, and she requested an Uber, and you
Picked her up.
You picked her up.
Yeah.
And then you bonded over what?
Well, I was just giving her rides. She will call me for the rides.
So she skipped over, like, once she called you the first time in Uber,
right?
She would just call you directly, and you would Uber all the time.
Right.
But the first time she wanted to go pick up her dog, right?
Right.
And what kind of dog does she have?
Chihuahua.
And what kind of dog do you have?
Chihuahua.
So do you think that's how you kind of like bonded at first, because you guys had the same common, like?
I don't know. She said we need to go pick up Sophie. It's like, I'm Sophie.
So that was like you think about it, coincidence. You picked her up. You really didn't know her. You're Ubering, right? And she goes, "Hey, I need to go pick up Sophie." And you're like, "Well, my name is Sophie." Right. And then you find out she has a Chihuahua, and you're like, "I have Chihuahuas."
Right.
So I mean, that's a connection right there.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, she must have been like truly in love with you, because
Yeah.
instead of her going to the Uber app, she would just call you directly.
It was getting free rides.
Oh, she was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're 42 years old. You never think that you want kids or anything like that?
I got too many nieces and nephews,
Yeah.
kids.
I mean, it's never too late, right? I mean, but you don't ever think that you want somebody like your own kid that you can raise.
Not right now.
When?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of people who don't have kids and they're happy in life. You're Chihuahua now, and that's a big part of your life, because you had 3 Chihuahuas. 2 of them have passed away. How long have you had Chihuahuas now?
06.
Since 06.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like your kids. Like
Almost, yeah.
you take care of them like a kid, right? I mean, you gotta feed them. They're like, it's good when they come and cuddle with you, and because they're they need you just like a kid,
Right.
Or you need them just like a kid, right?
Yeah.
So because when something happens to them, I mean, think about it. I remember when the first one passed away, and the things that you went through because you lost a Chihuahua.
We had like 7 of them at one time.
Yeah,
back in the day.
So, but I don't want to embarrass you, because I know you don't like talking about relationships in general. But I just thought it was important that
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. That all of us are married, have kids, and and you come over a lot and see everything, and you've never really thought about settling down or having kids of your own kids.
Yeah.
You like just the freedom of come and going when you want?
Just the freedom. Up.
Yeah. You don't think the rest of us have freedom?
I don't know. You locked down.
Oh, we're locked down?
Locked down.
Everybody locked down? Or just who's most locked down, do you think?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
You don't want to get in trouble today?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I just thought
just real quick, I want to say something about Sophie, right? Sophie doesn't have any kids. He said he has a lot of nieces and nephews, but he's done a lot for our kids as well. Anytime we need anything, or we need in a pinch, pick someone up from school, or someone's car has a flat tire, whatever the case is. So Sophie is like a second dad to a lot of our kids. So, and two is he might be a dad to some of our kids as well too. We don't know. We got the same.
Whoa.
But, yeah.
No, it is true. I mean, one time something happened to my daughter's car, and she texted me, and she goes, "I'm not sure why I'm texting you. I should just text Uncle Sophie. He's going to come and figure it out." And he comes and figures it out and takes care of it. And a lot of times it's almost like he's a big brother more than an uncle in a sense, So
yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, Jason really looks up to Sophie as his as his big brother, or besides being his uncle, and he's my son's 37 and Sophie's 42, so there's not really that big of an age gap. Actually, I think Shadia, you're only a few years older than Jason, right? Yeah. So, anyways, I think that's kind of the other. I do want to say a little anecdote just before we leave. So when Francis was getting married, there's a preacher, there's an older preacher, and the house is real dark, and they had it all lit up, but with candles. And the preacher is trying to read the book, the Bible, to say the scripture. And you know how the Arab girls go like that. Well, he didn't expect that, right? And everyone went, and he dropped the Bible.
Do it one time, Shadia. How does it sound, Shadia? Because Jim's not giving any.
Yeah. Oh my God, he dropped the Bible. That was Francis' best man, went picked up the Bible. He was trying to figure out where he was at. But I don't know, Francis, do you remember that? Yeah, you're on mute, by the way. You're on mute.
I can unmute you. Hold on. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. I think it was Selma, right?
Yeah. Somebody would exactly. Yeah. And he was so shook up. I mean, he just dropped that Bible. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that out because that was kind of a little anecdote that just kind of because in a wedding, especially like in a real solemn, ceremony, you don't expect anybody to make that kind of noise, or even they've probably never even heard that noise. But that's a good thing when they do that, because many you say a saying and then everybody chimes in with the woo thing, you know. So, anyways, I just wanted to say that just to kind of but anyways, I like I said, you know it's a blessing to be married and have a good spouse that's with you all the time.
Yeah.
And with
No, it
that,
is.
yeah. And with that, I just want to add, I know we're talking about relationships and spousal relationships and everything like that, but I don't think you have to have a spousal relationship to have a fulfilling life. I think you just have to have relationships, whether it's with your brothers, your sisters, your family, your nieces, anything like that. I know we specifically are talking about spousal relationships, but a lot of people have fulfilling lives with just ordinary relationships, friendship relationships, relationships with other family members, relationships with pets, whatever it may be. A spousal relationship does not define a fulfilling life. I know it has for some of us, and it has made us very happy, and I'm say alhamdulillah for that, but I don't want people to think like, oh, you have to have this spousal relationship to have a fulfilling life, because that's not true.
No.
Good
If you
point.
have, yeah, family and friends are really a big part of your life. I mean, all the way around. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys being here and doing this every week. It's just it's good that we even get together. I mean, I know with Ramadan, a lot of us see each other every Friday now, but it's good that we get together today. I'm sorry that Brother Jamal's not here today. He's not feeling good. So inshallah, he'll be back next week. And just make sure. I mean, it's good to hear the stories from people that we run into. I actually have a few more people at work have started listening now, and I don't really go around talking about us doing a podcast. But if somebody asks me, I talk about it, especially at work, because I always try to, keep stuff separate sometimes. But the people who ask me about it and then they go listen, they really get something out of it, and it's really neat to hear other people talk about it. So make sure that you're also sharing everything on social media. So if somebody doesn't know what we're doing, they can listen, and they can follow us and like and subscribe, especially for the YouTube and the different podcast streaming services that we're on. So again, thank you guys for being here, and thank you guys for being part of this. We'll see you guys next week.
We extend our heartfelt gratitude for joining our journey, immersing yourself in our tales, and becoming a part of our family. Stay connected with us by following at Abed11 on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. Keep the adventure alive with the Abed 11 Chronicles, where 10 voices unite to share a lifetime of stories. We are looking forward to seeing you next week.